Okay, we are live.
Good
Good evening,
afternoon.
everyone. Good afternoon. Good evening, everybody. It's another live session with Chris Elphick from Breadfruit Consulting and Velenie from Narara Consulting. We are brought to you live through Espresso page, and this is the fourth episode of Ask the Coach. And if you don't know what Ask the Coach is, it's a section in the Espresso magazine that features conversations between a coach and a business person. So if you've been following our previous live sessions, it's the same thing we're doing today. We'll be doing these sessions. The timing has changed. We'll be doing these sessions every 4 o'clock in the afternoon on Tuesdays and Thursdays. If you haven't followed Espresso page, please feel free to follow the page. And if you are watching and you have any burning questions on the topics that we've been discussing and what we are going to be discussing today, please feel free to drop your comment, feedback, or questions on the comment section below. Today is another session, and I will give this opportunity to Chris to summarize what we went through on the last session and then introduce the topic for today. Thank you, Chris. Over to you.
Thank you, Velenie. Good evening, everybody. I hope everybody is well, and good to be back. And did we all feel the earthquake last night? Scary.
Very scary. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. It was scary.
It was, yes, it woke me up, which is very unusual. Okay. So during these sessions, we're focusing a lot on what we call soft skills, behavioral skills, not so much the technical skills of coaching. Yeah, if you imagine, say, coaching a sport, you learn the technical skills of netball or football. So you learn how to shoot a goal or pass a ball or whatever. They're the technical skills. But underneath all that are skills called soft skills, behaviors. Teamwork is a soft skill. Communicating with other people is a soft skill. And these things are very often forgotten about because you don't get an examination necessarily in them. And they're quite difficult sometimes, because we've got to talk about our behaviors. And last time, and we missed one session because of the bad connectivity, but it's good to be here now. We started talking about what we call our feelings. And another word for feelings is our emotions. So a very quick summary, and what we're going to do today is just take these on a little bit further. But I focused last time on 3 things beginning with the letter E. Number 1 was our emotions. Number 2 was a word called empathy. And number 3 was something called our emotional intelligence. So emotions. Emotions, quite simply, feelings. And we all have them. We all have them all the time. You go somewhere new, you probably feel a bit nervous. Yeah? That's an emotion. You know, you do some work and a customer doesn't pay the bill, you probably feel angry. That's an emotion. You meet somebody and you fall in love with them, that's an emotion. These are feelings. And they don't start in our heads, they're very much inside from our heart. But of course they affect the way we behave. So if you go to a conference or a meeting and you're feeling very nervous, you might not say anything. And you might sit there and come away and not say anything, even though you're thinking lots of things. So your emotion of nervousness is affecting the way you behave. Does that make sense, Velenie? Yeah? Cool. So the reason for talking about these things is not to say we shouldn't have emotions. It's to help us learn how to manage them. So that was the first E, emotions, our feelings. We have at the moment, we've all got them. Yeah. You've only got to go on Facebook to see people express themselves all the time. What they're feeling about COVID, what they're feeling about wearing masks, what they're feeling about vaccinations, what they're feeling about the border being closed. All sorts of different feelings. And I think that's the other thing about emotions. We're not talking about one person's feeling being right and someone else's being wrong. Yeah? They are how we feel. Simple as that. It's not right or wrong. They're how we feel, but they affect how we behave. The next letter E was this word empathy. Because part of this is about us. When we understand our emotions, then we can help other people. So if you're a parent, one of the ways in which you help your children is to understand their emotions. Yeah. If your child's at school and they come home crying, maybe someone's been hitting them, or maybe they're upset about something. They've got an emotional reaction. But if we don't understand these things, we can't help them. So empathy is our ability to put ourselves in the shoes of others. And we talked quite a lot about that last time. And that's trying to imagine. It's a funny phrase, isn't it, really? But it's about trying to imagine how do other people feel. So you are running your business and you advertise for a job. And somebody applies for the job. And they've never had a job before. They're young. They just left school. Empathy is imagine how that person feels. They're probably feeling very nervous. They're probably wondering what sort of job is it going to be? How much are they going to get paid? What's the boss going to be like? So empathy is about our ability to understand how they might be feeling. And why do we need to do this? Is because if I have empathy with somebody else, I can then help them. Yeah. If I'm interviewing someone and I realize that they feel nervous, I can actually help them. I can maybe give them a glass of water. We can have a bit of a joke. I can just be a little bit calmer in the way I talk. So that's the second E. So the first E is understanding our own emotions. The second E, empathy, is being able to help other people. Now, it's very difficult to have empathy for someone else if all the time you spend all your time thinking about yourself. Empathy requires us to think about other people. How are other people feeling at the moment? Yeah, how are people in our village feeling, in our community feeling? What are people what effect is what's going on having on other people? If I work with a team, if I'm an employer, how are my staff feeling at the moment? The reality is they might not be feeling very good. Now, having empathy doesn't make them feel better, but it does help me understand them, and then I can manage them. So that's the third E. The third E is something called emotional intelligence. When we go to school or university, we get tested on our intelligence. When I was a kid, that was called my IQ, and I was brought up in England, and I was given a figure, a number, and I was told that was my IQ, supposed to be how smart I was. Terrible way to do things, because I used to think that people who had a bigger number than me were smarter than me, and people who had a little number than me were not as smart. That's not true at all. And when you go to university, you take an exam and you get your master's degrees or your bachelor's degrees or whatever, and you do all that through examinations, yeah? And that is all measuring how much you know, called your intelligence. What it doesn't do anything about at all is what you're feeling, your behaviors. And emotional intelligence is about how smart are we in trying to manage our emotions. So I talked about 5 steps last time. I talked about the need for us to be aware of our own emotions. Be aware how we feel when we go to a meeting or when we do something new. If I'm aware, I can start to motivate myself. I can say, okay, I'm going to go to that meeting. And last time I went, I wasn't very interested. So I've got to motivate myself. What am I going to do? Maybe I'm going to go with a friend. Maybe I'm going to make sure I get there early. If I can motivate myself, then I can manage the way I'm going to behave. So these are all to do with me. If I can start to do that, I can then start to understand something from another person's point of view. And we'll talk in a minute about how all this relates to the relationships in the workplace. And the minute I understand somebody, then I can develop the skills to help them. And this is called emotional intelligence. It's a big topic. There was quite a famous book called Emotional Intelligence by a guy called Daniel Goleman. He made it popular. It comes obviously from a group of psychologists. But I just want to finish by describing an image, which I didn't have time to do last time. And the image, I want you to imagine the image of an iceberg. Now, we don't have many icebergs in the South Pacific. But an iceberg is basically a huge amount of ice. We've probably seen the film The Titanic. Massive amount of ice. The thing about an iceberg is that 90% of the ice is under the water. So if you see a film of an iceberg float, it looks like it's floating, yeah? What you see above the water is just 10%. That's all, 10%. Underneath is 90%. And that's what the Titanic hit when it sunk. Now, why am I saying this? Is because this is like our emotions. We meet somebody for the first time. We like them. They look nice. They look pretty smart. We fall in love with them. We fall in love with the 10% that we see above the water. Underneath is another 90%. And as you get to know them, you suddenly find out more things about them. And sometimes we might think, oh, they're lovely. Other times we might think, oh my goodness, I didn't understand that. So the point about our emotions is that when you see someone for the first time, you're only seeing the top 10%. You know, a customer comes into you in your workplace and they're angry. Yeah. All you're seeing is above the surface. What you don't know is why they're angry. Yeah, that's 90% underneath. Yeah, maybe they've had some bad news with nothing to do with you. So emotional intelligence is our ability to be able to understand people. And the only way we can start to do that is to understand ourselves. We understand ourselves, we can understand others. And the minute we can understand others, we can work with all the relationships that we have to work with, especially in business, but not only in business, yeah, and with our partners, with our kids, with our families, with our kids' teachers. These are all relationships. Okay. So I promise I'll do a quick summary. That's a little bit longer than a quick one, Velenie. Sorry. But there you go.
No
3
worries.
E's: emotions, empathy, emotional intelligence. Over to you.
Thank you, Chris. I hope the people who are watching are following closely and are following the topic that we're talking about, emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is something that I would say that, so today we will be talking about how we can use our emotions to manage the relationships that we have around us. So that's what we will be talking about today. I feel that this topic is something that we have not been discussing much of. Especially, I'll be talking in a point of view of an Evan, right? We do businesses. We have things that we engage ourselves in, but emotional intelligence is something that we need to be talking more about, so that we can manage it better. Because it's something that, like you talking about it, it's something that you're seeing the iceberg. There's something much more deeper than the iceberg that you're seeing. You're seeing only the top of it, but deep within, there's still things that we as business owners, as parents, as an individual, we need to manage our emotions very well. When we come to talk about it in terms of businesses, we have different people that we're connected with. We have different relationships that we make when we do a business. We have our staff, we have our customers, and we have our suppliers, the people that we buy things from them, and we have if we have a lawyer, So those are the things that I feel that it's very important that not only at this time that we're going through, in a crisis that we're going through, but it's a good thing that we're coming now to talk about it, so that people are aware that our emotions are very important. Are very important in us managing the things around us. So just take, for example, if you have your staff that you are you have a business, and your staff are going through a rough time now in this pandemic. How are you going to be reacting towards your staff? What decisions are you going to be making that will be in favor of these staff? Or so it depends on the emotions. If we're business people, we have to master our emotions, so that we can deal with the relationships that we have with our the people that are connected to us. So yes, and it also comes down to when we hire people to come and work with us. We have this. Sorry, Chris, I'm talking in a point of view of a Nirvana.
Keep going.
Yes. So
yes.
Excuse me. We have this. We are so. I would say what? How do I describe it? We are really. How would I say this? Where whenever we want to make a decision, especially, let's say, for example, if we want to hire a staff to come and work for us, we think around, okay, who am I going to hire? Is it a family member? How would this family member feel if I don't hire the person, that family member? And we have this all sorts of emotions that are I would say it's really like blocking us from advancing, right? And we're not aware that these are the things that made us, sometimes our emotions makes us, we can't progress, because it's really something that we need to master, and we need to be aware of these emotions, so that we can move forward. We can identify them. So, okay, this is something that I need to work on, and how do I manage myself to address that this is the emotion that's holding me back, and then we can move forward.
Yeah.
Am I making sense, Chris?
Very much so. If I could just build on that, Velenie, yeah? I remember having this conversation a few years ago, and a business person in the room said to me, look, he said, this is nothing to do with business. He said, I'm in business, I run my business. All this stuff about emotions is to do with me and my family and my kids, but nothing to do with business. And there's that interesting, isn't it? Yeah. His mindset was that this is not about business at all. But when you think about it, business is all about emotions, isn't it? Yeah, exactly what you're saying. Customers. Imagine if you're running a tourism business, and you're behind the reception desk, and a family come in, having come by plane from Brisbane, and the plane's late, and the kids are shouting, and they're going to be pretty emotional. Yeah, nothing at all to do with how good your business is. Those people are going to be emotional, and if we can't understand that, and if we're never going to help them settle in quickly so they can become less emotional. So I think what you're saying is really important. And I think at the moment, Velenie, you've only got to read what's on social media just to see how emotional a lot of people are. Yeah. Just read some of the words people use when they write statements to do with COVID and all the things that are going on around that. What I read underneath a lot of it is fear. People are frightened. Now, are we having the conversations about fear? Because if we're not, we're missing something. Yeah. And just saying a statement which blames somebody else is never going to do it.
Yes, and I like what you just touched on. Like we've talked about it in the last episode. Empathy is also very important. It's because if in order for you to make a decision for the relationship around you, for your customers or your staff or your supplier, you have to have empathy, and it means that you have to understand how your customer is feeling. You have to understand how your staff is feeling, how your supplier is feeling, especially when it comes to if you're now that we're in a crisis like this, if you have a business and then you have your credits around, like you're short in cash for paying up, right? Because we're in a pandemic and it's a crisis. So
yes,
all these things you have to. It's something that we all have to learn to contain ourselves when we make negotiations, right? So that's our topic. Sorry, I'm talking about negotiation, but that's a topic
okay.
that we will be discussing in our next episode. But it's something that we really have to have empathy to understand what the person that you're talking to, how is he feeling? What's the emotion that he's having? So emotional intelligence, to be aware of your emotion and the emotion of the person that you're talking to. So I believe that this is something that if we all master our emotional intelligence, it's gonna get us a long way, and it's gonna because it's something like a superpower. If you master it very well, it's gonna get you a long way. You'll be successful just using that.
Yeah, and I think it's going to do something a lot more than that as well. It's because if we master it, we can help other people master it.
Yeah.
Just imagine as parents, if we master emotional intelligence and empathy, imagine what gift that is to our kids. Yeah. If we can actually help our kids grow up understanding those things, that's a fantastic gift. Yeah. Now we can only do that. We can only do that if we do it ourselves. I mean, I'm firmly of a belief that that's true. Yes. If I want someone else to understand about empathy, I've got to demonstrate it. Yeah. And through demonstrating it, someone else will suddenly start to think, okay, I understand that. And I think it's all to do, for me, it's all to do with teamwork. I mean, most of us need other people to achieve our goals. Yeah. Very few of us get where we're going in life on our own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if we want the team to push us forward, we have to master that emotional intelligence, because we can't be moving with a team that, like, if you don't know what your team members, if you don't want to understand what your team members are doing, you can't progress with the team member. You find it falling apart,
Absolutely.
Because no one understands each other. So
No.
in order to have a team with you, the emotional intelligence has to be strong, so that it has a ripple effect as well. Yeah.
I mean, we've got to remember here. Yeah. I mean, emotions are strong things, aren't they? Yeah. Emotions cause people to go to war. I mean, look what's happening in Ukraine. Yeah. And behind a lot of that are strong emotions. So emotions are not just nice things. Emotions include anger, and aggression and pain. Yeah. And emotional intelligence isn't just understanding the nice emotions. It's understanding, why do I get angry? When I see something, why does that make me angry? If I understand that, then I can control the way I use my anger. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I feel very strongly that people who commit, say, violence on someone else, say domestic violence, they're committing that because they cannot control and do not know how to control their emotions. Yeah. So the lack of control leads them to a set of behaviors that are incredibly destructive. Now, that happens in the workplace sometimes. A boss falls out with a member of staff and sacks them. Yeah. Maybe if they had spent a little bit of time beforehand understanding them, and as you say, Velenie, with empathy, they might not have reached the same conclusion.
Right. So it's a very important thing, because like you said, in a workplace, if you're managing a business that someone comes to work late every time, she comes to work late every time, and you don't know what's behind, what's causing her to come to work late. And that's the classic example of getting to know them better, what's causing all this lateness, and getting down to the bottom of it. So it's pretty much taking the lead in identifying a situation, what causes the situation, and the emotions that surround it, and all this.
Absolutely. And it might be, I mean, that's a good example. And I think a very common one, about someone coming to work late. And it might be that when you examine it, you actually find out the person's lazy. And you might have thought about that at the beginning. But at least you'll know a lot more about them, yeah? And of course, it might be there's some other reason, yeah? Maybe they're not getting good sleep because their kids are ill, or there could be a whole host of things. So for me, the more we develop this level of intelligence, the more we will understand all the knowledge we've got and be able to put that knowledge to good use. So we can go and learn about technical skills, So, we go and learn about accounting skills or legal skills or building skills. Great. We learn all those things. But if we want to put all that together and make a good business out of it, we've got to then wrap all that around this issue we're talking about around of emotional intelligence. And I think, you know, we're at a particular point in history where it becomes more and more important. And, you know, it's not very difficult to see the behavior of a lot of people who haven't really learned to do this. And I thought it interesting, Velenie, you said earlier on, I mean, it's a conversation that maybe many people don't have, not just in Vanuatu, but in lots of places. Maybe it's a conversation that needs to be had, yeah? Maybe
Yes,
it's a conversation
definitely.
that every family should be having.
Right. I believe that if we all master the emotional intelligence in our businesses, you know, that popular saying, family business. When we do business, we have families, you know, budging in, and
Yeah.
you know, I believe if we master that emotional intelligence, and we teach the people around us, this type of culture will not, you know, family business, mixing the family with business, and you know, because it all deals with emotions. And
Absolutely.
I always put it in some of my quotes on my page. Spending money is also triggered by emotions, you know, when you feel too happy and then you start spending money, or when you feel depressed and you start spending money on this and that. So everything is connected to emotion. So that's why I'm describing emotion as a superpower, right?
Right. I think it's a great word, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. And it's understanding them. That you know, that's, I mean, I keep coming back to this. Yeah? We are a complete mix of emotions. All of us. Yeah?
Yeah.
We haven't just got the nice ones. We've got the difficult ones as well, you know, inside us. We've all got this range of feelings.
Right.
And the more we can understand those, the more we can start to manage them and regulate them. Yeah. So if I start to understand myself, maybe I understand when I get angry. If I understand when I get angry, I know how to manage my anger. Yeah. If I don't understand when I get angry, I'm just going to get angry. Does that make
True.
sense? And I'm going to
Yes.
shout, or I'm going to punch somebody. And that all comes through a lack of understanding. Yeah, so we're not arguing here that you don't get angry. It's an emotion. We all do. We all get sad. We get happy. Yeah. But the more we understand them, the more we can manage them. And I think in business, I mean, one of the key elements of running any business is about problem solving, isn't it? Yeah. Businesses have to solve problems all the time. Business owners have to spend the time solving problems. Yeah. If you can't manage your emotions, problem solving becomes a very difficult thing to do. Because very often the actual cause of a lot of problems is an emotional cause. It might be a relationship breakdown between two members of the team, or a customer has an emotional issue with somebody in the business, or something's happened in the past and someone feels not trusted. All sorts of things, yeah? And if we're trying to solve these problems without understanding the emotions that underpin them, it's never going to work. And I would say that's exactly the same with our kids, yeah? You know, relationships with kids or with our loved ones. I mean, you know, underneath them are some really strong emotional issues. And if we don't understand
Yes.
them, how are we ever going to solve the problem?
Definitely. And I like how you mentioned that if you're angry and you don't know that you're angry, you always keep that, you know, that it always keeps, you always keep angry, but you didn't identify that it's an emotion that you need to deal with.
Absolutely.
So if it happens when we say that somebody is a short-tempered. Like, for example, if I say that my one of my family member is short-tempered, and he's going to be that short-tempered for, I don't know, for the rest of his life, if he doesn't realize that it's an emotion that, he has to realize that it's an emotion that he can control. So if he doesn't realize it, he's going to live with it for the rest of his life, and he's going to be known as the short-tempered person for the rest of his life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And the sad thing about that, of course, is that there's an emotion there that can be controlled. Because if we understand it, we can manage it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Because what it means to understand being short-tempered, using your example, is to understand that it has an effect on other people. Yeah. People are going to stop talking to me. If they know that every time they say anything to me, I start to get angry, what's going to happen? People will stop talking to me. Yeah. People will stop liking me. And that happens to a lot of people. Yeah. So I become the loser.
Right.
So it's up to me to learn how to manage these things. Now, we spend a lot of our life growing up learning knowledge, technical skills. Underpinning all of that is the stuff we're talking about here. And we can learn all the knowledge we want to make us a wonderful lawyer or anything. But if we're not actually tackling some of these emotions that are underneath it, I would argue that, well, what's the point? Yeah. And I think, come back to the whole thing about problem solving. Problem solving, I think, is a huge part of life, isn't it? We are all in a giant problem solving activity at the moment.
Yeah.
Really, around COVID. And when you look at a lot of the statements that people write and put in Facebook, not just in this country, but everywhere, yeah? So much of it is about someone else must do something, blaming someone, making a statement that says someone else is wrong. Now, we don't know that's true. We have no idea. Yeah? But what we do know is that there's a problem that we would all like to have solved. Is that true? We would. We would all like the borders of Vanuatu to be open, wouldn't we?
Right.
Yeah? We would all like our RSE workers to come home. We would all like our kids to be able to travel if they wish. Yeah. We all share. I mean, I doubt if there's anyone that doesn't want these things to happen. Yeah, when you look at the way we deal with a lot of these things, a lot of our language is the opposite. A lot of our language is saying you can't do this. That's wrong. They're not doing what we're not working together to solve problems. And in my experience, businesses or families or communities, the only way they move forward is by people working together. To do that, we've got to manage our emotions together.
Definitely.
Do you think that makes sense?
Yes. Thank you, Chris. So we've been talking about mindset. We talked about emotions, and now we're talking about the relationships and how to deal with the relationships around us using our emotions, and which leads us to our next topic. Our next topic will be focused more around negotiation. It will be focused more around the difficulty when it comes to negotiating to your bank for money, negotiating to your tenant for rent, right? So that's the next topic that we will be discussing. And yes, this emotional intelligence that we're just discussing is a very good thing that I feel like most Nivans need to we need to master emotional intelligence. And if some of you are watching, and if you would like to, get a one-on-one session to discuss more about emotional intelligence, because emotional intelligence is something that is personal, right? And sometimes people don't feel very. I would say they're not really keen on talking about it publicly, but
Sure.
we deal with businesses and people that, a personal life. If you emotion is something personal to you, and if you just need somebody to listen to you and we talk over the emotional intelligence and everything, please do feel free to get in touch with us. So yes, it's something that I feel like we need to talk more on, but it's kind of personal, right?
It is personal.
Yes.
And I think probably that's why it doesn't necessarily get talked about. Yeah.
Right.
Or you hear somebody, I mean, a common phrase will be someone that says, "Oh, that's Chris. That's how he is."
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's because everyone else just accepts it. So other people say, "Oh, he's got a short temper." We just accept it. But actually, it doesn't have to be like that. Yeah. In the same way that we can learn hard skills in any walk of life, we can learn to do these things better. And I think businesses will become better businesses the stronger the emotional base of that business. And that's about the relationships between the people there.
Right. Thank you, Chris. Thanks. So if you're watching and you have any questions, please send your questions. If it's a private question, send it to hello@next.com.vu. And thank you again for following us in this live stream today. We will be coming out again on Thursday to talk about another topic, still on emotions, and that's using your emotions to negotiate. Yes, Chris?
Yes.
Yes, so that's what we'll be talking about.
And something's happening tomorrow, yes?
Yes, on Thursday.
No, but something
tomorrow there's going to be tomorrow there'll be a sports mag program. It's a live session as well on this page on Espresso. If you haven't followed Espresso yet, please follow Espresso for a live sports mag session tomorrow with Amel and Chris Maliliu. All right, so as for me and Chris Elphick, this is our session for today. And thank you all for watching. Please feel free to put your comment on the comment section below or send an email to hello@next.com.vu, or you can contact Chris on the number that he has on the screen. And I have my Facebook page, which you can contact me on as well, on my name, Velenie Jacob. Thank you once again for listening, and we'll catch you all on Thursday.
Thanks, everybody. I've really enjoyed the conversation with you, Velenie.
Thank you, Chris, and same.
Stay safe. Take care.
Stay safe. See you Thursday.
Bye.